We were up. We were up in all the major indices, and the Dow gets a special start today because that's 7 weeks in a row. We're off to a blistering pace for the major markets this year, our markets, I should say. Foreign markets are not so lucky. Swiss America Chairman Craig Smith on that. I know there are ongoing worries about trade and whether it's going to develop into something, maybe this saga going on in Washington, whether we see another shutdown and all that stuff. I guess, as you reminded me many times, markets climb a wall of worry, but you're still worried.
I am, Neil, but I must tell you that I'm not as worried as before, because look at the market reactions to the lack of the meeting with President Trump and Xi.
Right.
I think right now, Neil, that we are going to get a deal. But let's keep in mind from a 35,000-foot view, Neil, what we're trying to accomplish. I think this is very important that we focus on this. In 1980, China had a $305 billion economy. Today's $305 billion economy. Today's $12.5 trillion. How did they get there, Neil? Cheating, stealing, using unfair trade, manipulating their currency. Now we're saying to them, hey, we want you to make structural reforms. In other words, we want you to abandon all that and take this new approach. That's going to take time, Neil, and that's not going to happen overnight.
And I don't know if it's so in any way. I mean, I get a sense, especially given the fact that the President and Xi Jinping will not meet before these so-called tariffs kick in the beginning of March. Then what?
Well, if they don't meet, I have to believe, and again, this is speculation on my part, Neil, but I have to believe that Lighthizer and Navarro, Mnuchin, all these guys are working behind the scenes. Keep in mind, our guys are going back to Beijing on Monday. I mean, these talks are still happening. Just because the President and Xi haven't sat down, that doesn't mean these talks aren't being productive. And look, I watched Larry Kudlow the other day on the program, and while he wasn't real optimistic, he wasn't pessimistic either, Neil. And so I'm very confident that we are going to get a deal. And getting back to the market, look at the market reaction this week, Neil. Like you said, it was up on the week. This didn't cause the market to sell off hard. So I think people are overplaying the whole issue of China as it relates to the trade talks.
And earnings are pretty solid, right? A lot stronger than people thought they'd be. Do you think that continues?
I do, Neil. I think the underlying fundamentals in the American economy are strong. My only concern, and we've talked about this before, is the slowdown that we see happening in Europe, the slowdown that we see happening over in Asia. I mean, when you have China slowing at the rate that they're slowing, Neil, can they really afford, Neil, to stop their exports to America? I think we have the upper hand in these negotiations. I think the reason why we haven't had a deal is because of the enforcement mechanism. China wants to be able to have enforcement mechanisms that they can get away with, you know, to work around.
Well put.
That's not going to happen with this president, Neil.
All right, we shall see, my friend. Thank you very much, Craig Smith. Have a good weekend. So is America Chairman. Good read of these markets. All right, the one deal we're a little bit more optimistic about isn't so much about